In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint Lord Maul, leader of the Death Watch Mandalorian Super Commandos for Star Wars Shatterpoint. That's right, spoiler alert, he didn't die at the end of The Phantom Menace despite losing half his body mass. So, without any further ado, let's get painting. The first thing we've done is built the model and sprayed it with a black primer, and it's really important because it's going to help the rest of the paint stick. So the first colour we're going to paint is all of the silver parts. So Darth Maul's new legs, they're going to be painted with silver, and the colour we're using is dark aluminium from Vallejo metal colour. Now if you haven't got this, if you've got lead belcher, or if you've got any other dark silver colour, that's absolutely fine. We're just going to make sure we paint everything that needs to be silver. Like I said, his legs, his lightsaber hilt, and also his midriff padding that he's got on as well. We'll paint his trousers and his shirt next, and the colour I'm going to use to base all this is going to be Steel Legion Drab, which is a nice brown colour, fairly neutral, and it'll work really nicely across the bright vibrant red and the kind of darker cold blue that we're going to use on some of the black parts. Next up, we'll shade all of the silver and that Steel Legion Drab with Nuln Oil. And we want to make sure this goes into the recesses, but we don't want it to pool too much. So just take your time with this, and if you see that you've got too much in one area, just clean your brush off and wick it away, because we don't want to put too heavy a shadow, because it'll be pretty ugly when it comes to doing the rest of the model. The first highlight we'll use is on all of the silver, and the colour I'm going to use for this is Chrome from Vallejo Model Air. If you haven't got Chrome, you can use Stormvermin Silver. Essentially, any bright silver will do the job here. And what we're looking to do is catch the sharp edges of the model, so we haven't got too much paint on our brush, and a good point. We can drag it along those edges to get a really nice, crisp highlight. And we also just want to take our time on the lightsaber hilt, not flooding the area with this bright silver colour, but just picking out the details. Again, take your time, you can always add more. Next up, we'll go back to Steel Legion Drab to start the clothing. So we just want to make sure we paint this over all of the areas that have not got Nuln Oil in them. So the most raised areas, the creases, the fold, we want them to go back to just a normal Steel Legion Drab colour, leaving that shadow into all of the recesses. So just take your time with this and build it up slowly. Steel Legion Drab will go over okay in this instance, but you may need two coats in some areas, particularly if you have to paint over where you've put too much Nuln Oil. We'll highlight all of that Steel Legion Drab using Karak Stone. Now this is a lighter colour than Steel Legion Drab, it's quite a bit lighter, so make sure you stain it with a little bit of water, and that'll help it blend down as it dries. So what we're looking to do here is catch all of the most raised and sharpest folds on that clothing. It's really easy and straightforward. We just want to work our way around, catching all of those raised areas, and this will give us a really nice effect on the clothing on the tabletop. Now it seems my video has cut out here, but essentially I've painted all of Maul's red areas using Mephiston Red, so you can see that on the model here. And the reason I've done this is because we're going to paint all of the black clothing next. So just paint Maul's head and his chest where it's going to be red with that Mephiston Red. Moving on to the black clothing that Maul is wearing, there are different materials. So you've got some leather material and you've got some black fabric. We're going to paint the black fabric first. And the first highlight we're going to use with this is Skavenblight Dinge. Now this doesn't cover very well, and that's going to work to our advantage. Essentially, make sure you haven't got too much on your brush, and a good point so you can get some nice crisp highlights. And we're just looking to work our way around these areas on Maul. So we've got that skirt area around him, and it also goes up underneath the leather hooded part that he's wearing as well. So just take your time with this. If you haven't got these colours and you just want to do the black or the one colour, you can do that as well. I'm just separating it out to give the idea of different material. To finalise the highlights on the soft black fabric, we're going to use some Stormvermin Fur. So again, take your time, make sure you've got a really good sharp point on your brush. And it's really easy to get some nice crisp highlights. All of the lines are there. You're looking for those most raised folds on the fabric. So just work your way around, catching them. And if you want to drag your brush along the sharpest edges you can, this will give you a really nice crisp highlight. We'll move on to the black leather areas now. So we've got Maul's hooded robe as well as those shoulder pads. So what we want to do is start off with a nice transition colour, and the colour we can use for that is Incubi Darkness. Now this doesn't cover fantastically well, and it'll blend really nicely into the colour underneath, so you don't push the black leather too far on that blue spectrum. This is a really good starting point. So just work your way around, catching those raised folds, and also maybe stippling it a little bit down the centre of those shoulder guards. Next up, we'll take some Thunderhawk Blue and we're going to do exactly the same thing, making sure we paint this inside that Incubi Darkness. So again, we're looking for those most raised folds, and then when it comes to the shoulder guards, we just want to stipple it on there so that it blends down nicely and gives us a really nice transition. The final colour we'll use on all of the leather is Fenrisian Grey, which is a nice bright colour, and therefore we need to use it fairly sparingly. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure we haven't got too much on our brush and that our brush tip is really good. Then we're just going to focus by dotting this on areas that are actually going to be the most raised areas and the sharpest folds and creases on the hood and also on the gloves and the fingertips. So this is really easy and straightforward to do. If you're not sure which bit you need to do, then either go to the end of the video or the start of the video so you can see the 360 view. That'll really help you out. Alright, it's time to get to work on Darth Maul's skin and all of the tattoos. So the first thing we need to do is bring them back. Now, you can use Nuln Oil for this if you want, but you'll need to use a couple of coats. I'm using Black Templar contrast paint. I'm going to paint it all over the red areas because it'll work its way into the recesses. I'm then going to clean my brush off and put a dab of clear contrast medium on the brush and paint this over all of the area I just painted. And what this is going to do is flush it into those recesses as you make it really nice and thin. Then all we need to do is let that dry and we can come back and start to highlight all of the red flesh. The first highlight we'll do is back with Mephiston Red, and we're looking to block in all of that red flesh that we had at the start, obviously leaving the darker colour in the recesses. Now all of the tattoos are sculpted onto the face and they are slightly recessed, so it is easier to see them. Now, the other thing I've tried to go for here is a little bit more of a realistic look where you can maybe see a little bit of fading on some of the tattoos, but if you want them to be really dark black, then you can just add another coat to that black contrast medium, Black Templar contrast medium, just in a more controlled way. As we bring that red back to life, we'll go to Evil Sunz Scarlet, which is a really nice bright red. And again, we're just looking to catch the most raised areas, particularly any edges. And around the head, we're going to be focusing on the forehead, the brow, the cheekbones, some areas on the nose, as well as the chin where the red skin can be seen. The last highlight on the flesh is going to be with Wild Rider Red, and with this paint we're looking to just be fairly sparingly and only catch the most raised and prominent areas, and this is really going to help that red flesh really stand out against the rest of the model, so just take your time with this. Now once I finish the red, I've decided that I want those black tattoos to be a little bit darker, so I'm going back to Black Templar contrast paint with a fine detail brush. I'm just going to paint it into those recesses, taking my time and being very careful. Now if you do make any mistakes, you can always paint over them with the red. Basing all of the horns on Darth Maul's head are really easy. All you need to do is take some Zandri Dust and just very carefully paint it over these elements. Now you just need to be careful where the horns and the head connect because you don't want to get Zandri Dust over the red or the black that you've already finished. To finish up the horns, all you need to do is give them a quick highlight with Screaming Skull, which is a very light bone colour. And the reason we're going straight to this is because it'll really stand out, and these horns are very small in terms of the size of their detail. So you just want something dark and something bright to have that difference in contrast that'll draw the eye. The last thing we're going to do on Darth Maul is his dual-bladed lightsaber. So the first thing we're going to do is paint those blades with a white paint. Now I'm using a very bright white. I'm using titanium white from Pro Acryl. You can use whatever white you've got, whatever white you prefer. Just make sure it's not AK white because that will not work with the next step. The next step is very simple, but you may want to watch it before trying it if you are following along. So the first thing we're going to do is paint that lightsaber blade using Baal Red contrast paint. We're going to make sure the entirety of the blade is covered. We're then going to take that brush that's still got Baal Red contrast paint on it and mix it into the white from the previous step to get a nice bright pink colour. We're then going to stipple this along that lightsaber blade over the wet paint, and this is going to give us that really nice crackle effect that the lightsabers have, particularly close to where the hilt and the crystal is. So that's it, very simple. Like I said, watch it through once and then try it yourself. So there we have it, Lord Maul is done and ready for the Shatterpoint tabletop. This is a very straightforward and simple video, but the effects are really great, so I really hope you enjoyed it. Now if you've painted Maul, you probably need someone for him to fight. Why not check out Anakin Skywalker here? Thanks again for watching, I'll see you next time.